sit down and have a little chat on camera. So I'm Michelle. This is my extremely patient, generous, supportive husband, Johnny. Say hi.
Hi, I'm Johnny.
He'll occasionally jump on to discuss some of the podcasts with me. I may be able to talk him into narrating some of them eventually. But tonight we just wanted to jump on and kind of do a little bit of a wrap-up discussion on the whole Ruby Franke, Jodi Hildebrandt child abuse and neglect case that is just awful. As I said in the video, I started working, that was going to be our first episode. I started working on it back in April, and there's a large amount of content that is publicly available that is also just out on social media, and it's just really hard. So, you know, if you made it all the way through that presentation, I'm sure you can understand just how heavy-hearted you come out after hearing all these horrific details that these poor kids lived through. And I just kind of, when I was mostly yesterday, really kind of putting the final touches on everything, made some notes about some observations that I had about the case, but I've been able to kind of soak it in over the last several months, and Johnny really was just exposed to the majority of the content yesterday. And so I really kind of wanted to start with maybe just kind of getting, you know, how his, I don't know, just how you felt about what you heard and read, saw, anything that you found to kind of stand out or be super interesting or more disturbing than other pieces of it.
I mean, just in general, it's disturbing. To be able to, I can't, right now I can't find the word because we're on camera. To be able to justify what was going on in these journals, and not really being accountable during all of that was going on is not as disturbing as, of course, the physical and emotional abuse, but it's really bizarre to me that to be that blind and to be that just so into whatever's going on that you don't have a moment of clarity to think, hey, boy, this is wrong. This isn't going right. I mean, obviously through the journal, I think it was R that was continually, you know, urinating and just acting out. And to me, that would be like almost obviously a cry for help, and whatever they thought that they were doing to help to make them behave or toe the line, it obviously was not. That wasn't the way to do it. So
it's interesting that you brought that up, because I learned years ago, I worked for a mental health clinic for a few years when I was still in college, and I have a degree in psychology, and I learned there too that there is a big link, like 60% of kids that have urinary, or it's called enuresis, or fecal encopresis incontinence, 60% of them have had some kind of abuse or neglect. It could be sexual, it could be physical, it could be neglect, but one of the reasons that professionals think that there's a correlation between it is because they're always in a state of fight or flight.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's one of the only things that they can control, right, also, which could be the case with this. But anyway, I just wanted to, it's not that they're being naughty, although maybe sometimes Russell did want to piss Ruby off because he knew that upset her, but I think more of it is it's just a response to, it's a trauma response to the abuse and to the neglect. And then I also thought it was interesting, because I didn't share these talking points with you, but it's also interesting that one of the things that hit me when Russell ran away, when Ruby's talking in her journal about how she sat just straight up out of bed and realized that he was gone, and then they start driving around and looking for him, you know, like trying to get ahead of the daylight and hoping that nobody has seen him, and they went to all of the like main roads first to make sure that he wasn't out there, and then she just starts praying to God that they find him, and you know, that they, you know, basically saying that she knew if they got caught they were going to jail.
Yeah, she wasn't. She was not praying to God for the kids' safety.
No.
She was praying to God so she wouldn't get busted.
Right. Right.
Which you can hear that when the cops go to the door and they don't have the warrant, but they have enough evidence to be able just to go in, and it was
Jodi.
Jodi that answered the door.
Yeah.
And you could tell in her voice that she was nervous for a reason, because there was a ton of evidence in there and they knew exactly what they were doing.
And which is why she was on the phone with her attorney too when she opened the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so it kind of goes back and forth to where it seems like Ruby's completely out of her mind and doing all these like just really strange, out there things. And I do think that religious extremism played a part in this, because she had somehow convinced herself that these children, you know, were evil, and that the only way that they were going to be able to repent, you know, and get on her idea of the right path with God was to basically be physically punished.
Yeah.
Until they repented and, you know, took responsibility for their behavior. But, you know, it also struck me as just how extreme it was when she would say in her journal that Russell stole water.
Right.
Because he'd get into the hose.
Yeah.
Or the one entry where he was really hot, he put his head down into the toilet bowl.
Yeah.
And he said he was hot and he was trying to cool down, which I'm sure he was, because it's hot as hell in southern Utah in the middle of the summer. And how, you know, Ruby and Jodi just thought that that was just disgusting behavior on his end. Like they lost all reality for what, you know, what is normal adolescent behavior and what is not.
For sure. And really quick, even though they're just kids, it is human nature to want to survive.
Oh yeah.
And that's what they were trying to do. Whether it was acting out or the whole, you know, fight or flight kind of thing, whatever you were talking about, it's just a natural, no matter how old you are, if something is wrong, you're going to try to survive.
Right.
And that's what they were doing as well.
It's just your survival instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back to, I didn't realize this was the same entry, but this is something that really stood out to me when I was first reading through the journal, and then again when I was recording it. But this entry from Ruby said, Russell stole water, he was angry and looked like he wanted to fist up. I put my hands on his shoulders and told him I love him. I told him he has no idea what he's doing, but I do. I can help him. I told him, give your demon friend a message from me. I will not rest. I will not stop. I will not leave. I will fight him until the day you die. So was she thinking that she was going to die before Russell? Because there are a lot of people that are really familiar with this case that feel pretty strongly that if they had made it to Arizona, out into the middle of nowhere on this property, those kids would not be alive.
Yeah.
Because the extent of the abuse that they suffered, I mean, in the location where they were living in Ivins, the houses were quite, you know, spread apart. We've been out to that area before, and, you know, there's just a lot of sagebrush and
desert.
Yeah, it's a desert. But their plan was to go to Arizona. And, you know, Ruby had said something about these kids, you know, they won't believe it when we just drop them in there, and then all of a sudden, you know, they'll get what they deserved and stuff like that. So, and there's also a little bit of a correlation with this whole case and the Chad and Lori Daybell, where, you know, they felt that their kids were possessed and that they were demons and that they needed to get rid of the demons, and those kids ended up dead. So that is another case of religious extremism when people probably have good intentions in the beginning, but then they just go off the rails.
Right. for whatever reason.
For whatever reason, which is really, really, really sad.
Yeah. And really interesting. I mean, even though it's sick and stuff like that, it is really weird. And it's weird to be wired like that, to where you can just
go off the rails. Yeah.
And I was going to say something else. I firmly believe, I'm with everyone else, that they wouldn't have made it. Once they got to Arizona, that would have been it.
Yeah.
Because they were holding them how they were holding them for a reason.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't get caught.
Right.
Because they knew.
They knew.
They just couldn't, I don't know why, but...
Right. And there was a journal entry of Ruby's where she was talking about how when Jodi took Eve with her and one of the other daughters with her to Arizona,
Yeah.
she said that she had Eve laying down in the back seat of the car, facing the back seat the entire way to Arizona and the entire way back. She had no idea where they were going or why they were there or anything. So that's another example of that they knew what they were doing was wrong.
Yeah.
And, they were hiding evidence. I find it really disturbing that they would, hide the kids away when people would come over and act like everything's normal. And also, like, Jodi was still having therapy clients. She was still providing therapy with clients remotely while they're abusing and neglecting these children under the same roof where she's on the phone with clients. Like,
it's the perfect mask.
It blows my mind. And that's kind of what I talked about in the intro is there are evil people doing evil things all around us. Yeah. They're integrated into every community, and as fast-paced as life is right now, it's easy to just look away and mind your own business and not look out for other people. But like I talked about, especially with children, the elderly, and the mentally and physically disabled, they need our help.
Yeah.
They need our eyes.
Yeah.
They need us to be nosy. And, maybe overreact once in a while, that's fine. If it's gonna, lead to something. And down the road, we'll probably do an episode on this case in Utah, up in Clearfield, where a kid was being neglected. I don't know about abuse. I haven't looked into it that closely, but just within the last few weeks, this poor kid ended up in the hospital and died. And he was being neglected at the hands of 2 adults and his older brother.
Right.
So anyway, I think there's an interview with a lunch lady at the school saying that there had been signs and all of that. But the other last two points I wanted to make are, how much did this Pam woman know about what was going on down there?
Mm-hmm.
It was hers and her husband's house where the 2 older girls were found by police. And, she had helped Ruby pack up her Springville house and take stuff to the storage unit. She had been down to Jodi's house in Ivans and picked the one girl up to take her to go get her ACT.
Right.
I mean, how much does that woman know about what was going on?
She had to know at least something to be, you would have to. There's no way you can miss something like that.
Right.
And I don't think so.
At least one of the daughters, if not both of them, had some idea what was going on with Russell, because when he ran away, one of the daughters went with Ruby to go look for him.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously she saw him when they found him and the condition that he was in, and what was held over those poor older girls' heads for them to not say anything to anybody or call the authorities or call their dad.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other thing that we're going to get into. That's going to be our next episode, is Ruby Franke's husband, Kevin, the dad of these children that did not see, talk, or hear anything about them for over a year. He said that he and Ruby didn't even talk about him. He didn't ask how they were doing, and she didn't report how they were doing. They strictly talked mostly about finances and business.
Yeah.
And I cannot wrap my head around that either.
Neither can I.
That is out there. So, he was interviewed again by police about this case, and some more really wackadoodle stuff came out during that interview that we'll share. And I'm certainly not blaming Kevin Franke for what happened to these children, but come on, man.
It's odd that he just didn't ask about his kids.
Right.
So there was obviously a bizarre understanding that he agreed with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I just that's way far beyond what I would do. So I can't at all think. It's a crazy story. So it's extremely sad. Those kids are they're gonna, you know, it's
the sad thing,
they're gonna have a rough time, you know, with trust, I think,
obviously,
with a lot of stuff. And that's just someone looking inside out.
Right.
So.
And I've always said this in cases of, you know, child abuse and neglect, and also with, you know, survivors of all different kinds of abuse, that takes away that person's life that they could have had that experience not happen to them. It changes the trajectory of their lives for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Because someone made a decision to harm them or to take something away from them. And I just think that is so, I just think it's so sad.
Yeah. And if they don't get help, then that's all they know.
Right.
Is that abuse. So it will continue. It does continue.
Yeah.
That's nothing new.
Right.
That's not new news.
And, you know, I also think it's interesting, like I said in the episode, there were full pages of that journal that are redacted.
Yeah.
A lot of them. So what do we still not know? That they felt like they had to redact entire pages. Like, that'll probably eventually come out one day. And maybe I'll be interested in learning about it, maybe not. But, you know, my obsession with true crime has a lot to do with, I've always been fascinated with what makes people's minds tick the way they do. Why do they behave the way they do? What, you know, happens in their life to cause them to make the decisions that they do. Which is the whole reason I initially thought I wanted to go down the psychology, forensic psychology route, because it's very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Disturbing as hell
Yeah.
a lot of the time, but intriguing nonetheless.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Always unanswered questions.
Yes.
So.
Yes, there's always more that you don't know. You never know what's going on behind closed doors.
Yep.
Unless you're behind the closed doors.
Right.
But.
I'm glad I'm not.
Anyway, I think that's about all I had to talk about.
Nope, that's it.
Cover anything else?
Nope, good job.
All right, so we're just, you know, getting this channel up and running. We'll be getting episodes out as often as we can, hopefully at least once a week. And then these kind of wrap-up videos whenever we can pull ourselves together enough and step back from our crazy, chaotic lives long enough to record a little video.
Yeah.
It's fun, it's exciting. We hope to raise awareness about, you know, a lot of different things that could use some attention. So, like whole EMT salary thing that I talked about during the episode. That's been on my mind for a long time, and I don't have necessarily the solutions, obviously, but I think it's something that, you know, the public needs to be aware of.
Awareness.
Yeah,
I mean,
and, you know, maybe we can sometime try to draft a bill or get with somebody to draft a bill or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
And we hope to bring you some more really super interesting episodes, and hope that you'll continue watching. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please do.
Yeah.
It's free. And also, if you like what you're seeing, please hit the thumbs up. And please share the YouTube channel with anybody that you think might be interested in watching or learning about any of this stuff. There's a lot of true crime buffs out there. So most of the time when I tell people what we're doing with this, they say, oh, I love true crime. I've never really talked to anybody that has said, oh, I can't, you know, handle that. Well, maybe your mom and my BFF, Marianne, I don't think they can handle listening to this content, which is fine. You don't have to.
Right.
But for those of us that are interested, we are going to keep bringing it to you.
Yes.
So until next time. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I'm always going to say, please be aware of your surroundings and stay safe always.